And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tournament Central here on the Disc Golf Network as we continue to bring you coverage of the 2023 PDGA Professional Disc Golf World Championships presented by L.L.Bean. Of course, we are in Smuggler's Notch in Jeffersonville, Vermont, the site of the 2018 Worlds and home of the annual Green Mountain Championship. And my name is Dustin Murray, and I'll be your host throughout the day. And joining me for the FPO coverage, of course, going to be Brian Earhart once again. And once again, Brian, you're looking very dry this morning, which I believe is probably some good news.
Yeah, just like yesterday, it's all dry. I mean, even more dry than yesterday because we haven't had any rain. I mean, there's a little bit of morning dew. It's kind of cold this morning, warms up throughout the day, but the wind is down. Yesterday was a lot windier in the morning time than it was today, and when you play Brewster Ridge when the wind is high, it is really challenging because the wind does seep through the trees and makes it very challenging to read shots off the tee. But right now it's prime scoring conditions. It's starting to warm up just a tad. I think it's going to be perfect for the FPO division going into today.
Well, speaking of perfect, we have to talk about Kristin Tattar, who feels like is playing almost perfect golf. Obviously, she came into Worlds as the clear #1 player in the world, already having won 9 events this season, including winning both majors we've had this year, the Champions Cup and the European Open. Of course, she had the podium streak last year and winning 5 events, and she is a reigning world champion and basically the leader in every metric you can think of. We got to catch up with her yesterday after she increased her lead to 8 strokes.
If you're having a good day, everything seems easy. But if you're having a bad day, everything seems tough. So I don't want to label anything like easy or tough. It is what it is. And today I feel like I executed my shots the way I wanted to mostly and made some very good putts. Missed 2 short ones, but I mean overall it was a very solid round and I'm very pleased.
You mentioned in the press conference earlier this week, going for your second world title, you feel like there's a bit more calm amongst you. After 2 rounds, do you still feel that sense of calm?
Right now I do. I mean, I'm just happy to witness how it all unfolds, whichever way it goes. I mean, yeah, I'm just happy to be here and witness this moment.
And that is some words from Tattar yesterday after shooting a 7 under par, a clean card, again hitting the hot round of the day. She puts herself 8 strokes ahead of Missy Gannon and 12 strokes clear of 3rd place. It's starting to become a 2-horse race, and it's really starting to become Tattar's tournament to lose. And I think from that interview, Brian, it's interesting to see how cognizant she is of, things that are happening on the course, decisions that she's making, results that she's getting, but also her ability to, in the overall picture, kind of separate herself from that.
Well, it gave me goosebumps the moment she said that, Dustin, because you could read any sports psychology book from any sport, and they talk about the flow state. They talk about sometimes even tapping into an out-of-body experience. We've heard multiple players in the tour after a winning talk about that, how it feels like something's guiding them through the round other than themselves. And it feels to me like Kristin is tapping into that on command this week, saying, I'm just here to witness what unfolds. It's almost like she's stepping out of her body intentionally and just letting all the training and success take care of itself. And that's how a player as talented as Kristin Tattar can continuously make these scores happen. I mean, she's averaging 1030 golf and just demolishing the field very early on. But a player like her needs to tap into that mindset because of all of the targets on her back right now. I mean, everybody wants a piece of Kristin Tattar. Everyone wants to beat Kristin Tattar, but she's literally just here treating this as a spectator, just watching the action unfold with open eyes, and that's exactly what she needs to do for the rest of the week. It was powerful stuff. Easier said than done. It's easy to read it in a book. It's other thing to actually internalize it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of just like you said, no one else really speaks like that. And I think that it's also interesting her saying that because of how open and honest she was about the mental battle she had at the European Championship prior to coming to Worlds, where it was almost like the reverse, where she felt like she kind of got consumed by that moment because that was the one piece of hardware she hadn't collected yet. It was meant so much to her to do that, and so it's interesting to see her be able to kind of reflect and get back to that calm. And yeah, she has put herself in a fantastic position. There's no doubt about it. Again, we take a look at the leaderboard, and really Missy Gandon feels like the only one in striking distance right now. Of course, she entered the tournament ranked third in our UDIS World Rankings and second in our standings. She had recently become a back-to-back Ledgestone champion and has 6 additional podium finishes this season. And, she played some pretty rough golf to start yesterday, going 1 over par through the first 5 holes, but really heated up afterwards, hit 5 birdies in a row, went 7 down through 9 in the middle of the course, and, at least is keeping herself in the hunt, as we got to catch up with her yesterday as well after her round.
Well, we have 3 rounds remaining. You are 8 strokes off Kristen Tatar. Is there anything really that you can do actively to make up those strokes in future rounds?
No, I think it's just that you have to play hot. This is the time where you have to just put it all together. And, there's 3 more rounds left. I think at this point it's go big and go home. So, I'm ready to put the pedal to the metal and just try to shoot hot.
And that's exactly what it's going to take, it feels like, Brian, for Missy to get back into this is shooting, lights out. I mean, not only is she 8 strokes behind, but it's also just what type of golf we're seeing out of her opposition in Tatar, that it feels like you're not allowed to make any more slip-ups. I mean, it's just a weird thing to me, Brian, because on the one hand, you think to yourself, man, there's a lot of golf left to be played. We had 3 days left of this World Championships, but there's just that vibe in the air and just the way that Kristen is playing that it just feels like it's going to take something special to be able to surpass her. But it seems like Missy's trying to put herself in that mental state of just going out guns blazing.
It's a paradox, Dustin. I mean, to care so deeply about something as taking down a world championship, you have to not care about it and only focus on the tiny details to make that happen. So it's something that Missy is getting very good at. Clearly, Kristen right now just has the most elite mindset of the entire division right now. She seems completely unfazed, but Missy's getting there. I think she's learning what it means to actually press. I think sometimes when we think press, we think active, we think forcing. That's why I asked her that question. And she said, no, you just have to show up and play hot. And we all know that that doesn't necessarily mean doing anything flashy out there. I mean, she has the skill set to score, even just playing a very conservative style. So Missy just needs to show up and do all the little things correctly. That's the only way she's going to be able to catch Kristen, because that's what Kristen's doing extremely consistently right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, Missy has proven that she can win. I mean, again, she's a back-to-back Ledgestone champion, and Ledgestone has that same dichotomy as the property that we're playing on now, of the heavily wooded track versus the more open course, so to speak, and she's been successful playing in that system where you're going back and forth between those 2 different styles of golf. And again, she's got plenty of podium finishes this season, including at a major at the European Open, to prove that she certainly has the game to go out there and do good work. I mean, her putting is right up there with Tatar as far as how successful she can be on the greens. It's just about getting there, staying in bounds, and just trying to put birdies together, I think, is really the big thing, as again, she is going to have to work pretty hard. I mean, she's already done well this season, again, sitting second in the standings behind Kristen Tatar. Very consistent player, but again, it's going to take something special to chase her down, being 8 strokes behind, but we'll see if she can do it. Now, a player who made a bit of a move yesterday is actually going to be Evelina Salonen. Now, she coming to Worlds ranked 15th in the world and 24th in our standings. Of course, she had 6 finishes in the top 6 or better last year on tour. This year, we saw her take 7th early in the year at Austin and 6th at the Music City Open. And then from there, she, would do well at Jonesboro. She took 3rd at the PCS Open, kind of stayed in Europe after that. She shot 1 down on the opening round to put her in a tie for 9th position. But yesterday, she was able to move to 3 under overall and put her in a tie for 3rd place. And we got to catch up with her after that feat.
I felt I was playing bad and had too many OBs, so I left a lot of out there.
All right, we go back to the woods tomorrow in much better conditions, hopefully. What kind of tweaks are you looking to make in the woods?
I hope that I play well. I love playing in the woods, so I hope it's going to be good.
Salonen, a woman with few words but with tons of talent. Again, we've talked about Evelina Salonen many, many times, I feel like, on this network as being one of the more talented throwers in the field, one of the better distance players in the field. Certainly that can bring her an edge out at a place like Fox Run, but it always has been the putting that has held her back. Obviously she finds herself 12 strokes off the lead, but she is very much in contention for the podium, and there still is that outside chance that maybe she can make a huge push today. What are your thoughts about what Salonen's been able to piece together so far this Worlds and what you can project going forward?
Well, Dustin, I have to just give kudos to Evelina. I mean, we all know what happened last season, and it's happened a little bit this year on the putting green with the yips from the short range, and to battle back from that is such a mental accomplishment. It's such a triumph, and for her to still be in contention is just wonderful. I cannot wait to see her play in the woods today. She is one of my favorite throwers of the disc in either division, forehand, backhand, and when that putter gets hot, she's easily top 3 in the world. I mean, she has everything. So she's one of those players that can start putting pressure on everybody early. If she's sticking greens and sticking bullseyes like we've known her to do, anything can happen. I mean, that's the only way pressure can get put on Tatar right now, is if people start hitting those daggers and make her feel like she has to start pressing and potentially shake that focus that's so hard to shake. It feels like we're playing chess against the chess engine right now, Dustin.
Yeah, it really does. Again, I know there's a lot of golf yet to be played, but you can just kind of see it in the stars, the way that Tatar is playing, that, it's really up to her whether or not she lets off the gas or not. And, she's in control of this right now, and everyone else is just trying to play catch-up as best they can. Evelina certainly is one of those players that has a throwing talent to do so. She's like, that Finnish representation. Her and Henna Blomroos have been people that we've been talking about for a couple of years, and now all of a sudden you have Silva Saarinen, who's starting to make her mark as in the next Finn kind of coming up in, that same region, that's also doing pretty well this tournament. She's actually tied for 7th at 1 under par, so someone we might be able to hear from later on this tournament. But another player that I think we have to talk about is actually that of Alex Benson. Now, Benson is probably a player that you may not be as aware of because she hasn't really played on the Disc Golf Pro Tour at all this year. But she is certainly the hometown hero coming out of Williston, Vermont, which is only about 30 miles away from where you are standing right now, Brian. So definitely she is very much at home here. We did see her on tour last year a decent bit, and she had many top 15 finishes on the tour, including at some elite events like Idlewild, the OTB Open, and Ledgestone, as well as the MVP Open. So definitely someone who has game. She did place in the top 20 at Worlds last year in Emporia, so she definitely does have a bit of a resume, even if she hasn't been on tour that much this year. And we, of course, got to speak with her yesterday as well.
Catching up with Vermont's own Alex Benson. Alex, let's start there. A lot of familiarity with these courses.
Absolutely. These are my home courses, so on any given day you'll find me here. I actually kind of enjoy playing in the rain, so yesterday I got a little excited when that downpour happened, and I think I played my best through that rain. So, just take each day at a time and play to the conditions.
Pretty solid today in the great conditions as well. What was working for your game today?
I don't really know. It's the best round I've ever played in a tournament on Fox Run. I was really just focusing on hitting my shots and enjoying them, and the pieces just seemed to fall together.
And again, those were words from the hometown hero that is Alex Benson. Of course, she actually won an event at this course by 25 strokes earlier this year at the Brewster Ridge Open. So again, this is definitely familiar stomping grounds for her. And again, she's a player who was proven, last year on tour that she's got the game. Brian, can you give us any insights? Because again, I'm sure there might be many people out there who aren't as familiar with Alex Benson.
Well, the one thing I have to say, Dustin, is that if you are familiar with these courses, if you've played at Brewster Ridge, Fox Run a lot, you have a huge advantage. There's so many little details to these courses that if you can figure out a very consistent strategy on them, it mitigates a lot of the quote-unquote bad luck that can happen to you out here. She has obviously a refined strategy out here on both courses. She's a very smooth thrower. She's got very good shot shaping. I think Brewster Ridge is right up her alley, and I mean, there's no problem for her out there. I mean, she's going to have to chase, she's going to have to press, but right now for her, this is going to be great. I mean, opportunity to play in front of the hometown crowd and just play freely. I mean, play as if there's no pressure at all. Obviously, she's going to put pressure on herself. This is her hometown tournament, and it's the World Championships, but just glad to see her out here.
Absolutely. I mean, she's had a kind of a similar path to Evelina Solomon so far this tournament, shooting 1 under on day 1 at Brewster and 2 under yesterday to put herself in this tie for third as we head into our third day of Worlds and our second round at Brewster Ridge. And again, she's the player who's already had success on this track and other tournaments, and certainly someone who is fighting for the podium right now. Now, of course, they are not alone in looking for those positions. We also have a chase card full of talent, which we'll talk more about after the break.
Friendship isn't defined by time spent together,
but rather by moments shared.
Moments that are warm,
exciting,
and new. When you're outfitted for all that's out there,
even the ordinary becomes extraordinary.
So here's to taking a moment to appreciate every moment, made outside together.
At Discraft, we don't wait to see what the future holds. We build it. The future is in your hands.
We're ready when you are. Come, discover Vermont.
Oh, it was hard to bounce back today. I felt like there were several holes in a row where it looked like I threw the only good shot on my card, and yet I was the one who ended up getting, punished, trickling OB long or something like that. And it can be really hard not to take that personally. But obviously, the course doesn't single any one person out. It all the luck and everything balances out in the end. That's just something I have to remember. And then it was kind of just like a channeling that frustration into some determination there at the end.
Back to Brewster tomorrow in the woods. Can you glean anything from yesterday's round in the woods?
Oh, 100%. I think just remembering to be smooth early. I had a couple mistakes early because I kind of yanked or early released a disc. So just remembering to stay nice and smooth and snappy with the hips, and then just trying to keep the putts straight on line from jump. I think I putt better in the woods a little bit, maybe when it's not as windy. Tons of room for improvement.
And there was, of course, Holland Handley, one of the most talented players in the FPO division this year, has been kind of a consistent, top 10, top 5 contender at most events she attends. Of course, yesterday she had a bit of a rough start. She went 4 over par through the front 9, and she was kind of discussing some of that in the interview, but she was able to bounce back, hit 5 birdies in a row to return to 1 under par, and now sits at 3 under overall, which is putting her in that tie for third place with Evelina Solomon and Alex Benson. Again, this is kind of one of the, next generation of talent we're seeing in FPO, kind of coming up alongside Ella Hansen, who have very good, throwing game, both forehand and backhand. At times, putting has been a bit of a struggle, but definitely someone who is a consistent contender in the division. What are your thoughts on Holland Handley as she leads a chase card today?
I mean, if Holland's short game just comes along, if she can keep it consistent from short range, those 200-foot approach shots, those circle 1 putts, she's up there with anybody in the division. I mean, the power forehand, power backhand, easy. I mean, her speed is just so good. And like you said, this is next generation athlete in the FPO division. Her throwing mechanics are refined, and she always is grinding that body positioning when it comes to the backhand and forehand throw. And it's paying off for her. I mean, she still has so little experience compared to other players, and she's having fantastic results. It's just trial and error at this point. I mean, she is a very receptive person. She's always paying attention to her mistakes and why she makes them. I just think the fact is her wheels are turning. She has a rough start. She realizes mentally she has to understand that disc golf has a lot of really unlucky things that happen, a lot of strange things that happen, and it's just part of the game, and it's hard to accept. But it sounds like she's starting to really sink into that, and we're going to see her more consistently up towards the top because of it. So I'm interested to see how she does in the woods today. Obviously, Fox was her big opportunity to score, but not to say that she can't do it out here today.
No, certainly not. Definitely someone who can shape those discs in the woods just as well as out in the open. And again, she sits at 3 under par, definitely in a fight for the podium, already tied for third heading into our third round. Now, another player who's put themselves in a pretty good position is going to be none other than Allie Smith, who currently sits in solo 6th place. Of course, she entered the World's competition ranked 14th in our Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. Early in the year, we saw her place in the top 10 at the Music City Open and followed it up with several top 15 finishes, including at the Champions Cup. She then would start racking up in some of the silver events, coming, in some good top 10 finishes at the Beaver State Fling and the Cascade Challenge. And then even at some elite events was hitting, in or near the top 10 at DDO and Des Moines. But, of course, the big moment for her was the win at the Kansas City Open. And since that win, she has consistently placed in or near the top 15 on every tour event she has attended. And she is so far also piecing together a pretty good Worlds performance. Any thoughts, Brian, here on Allie Smith, and what type of game she's to be able to bring to the table today?
Well, we're watching the highlights right now. She's got really powerful backhand, great power hyzer, great shaping. She's got the big turnover. You saw her throw that on 8 yesterday. She has angles, and it's the variety that she brings to the table with the backhand throw. So the one thing I will say, it's just funny how it works like this, Dustin. You take down a victory on a silver event at your home course that you grew up running cross country on, and now you realize, oh yeah, I am good enough to take down all of these players. I am good enough to win at the elite level, and maybe even at the major level. I think it's no coincidence, Dustin. It just happens. That's part of sports. That's part of progressing as an athlete and as a person. Now she's here. She believes that her skill set is good enough, and that's why she is where she is right now.
Yeah, certainly in good position. And also in a good position is going to be Maria Oliva. Of course, she entered the World's competition ranked 16th in the UDIS World Rankings and 13th in the Tour standings. She actually won our first wraparound season event at the New World Championship to end 2022. And had a pretty good start to the year as well, some top 15 finishes at Vegas and Austin. She's also recently placed 5th at Ledgestone and 6th at Des Moines. So definitely another one of those players that's consistently been able to compete in that top 10, the top 15 range at most events that she attends. She also ranks this season in the top 10 for reaching both circles in regulation as an 11th in birdie percentage. So definitely a player who can score. She was able to shoot 1 over par at Brewster to kick off the tournament, placing her in 17th, but was able to claw her way into a better position yesterday, shooting 2 under at Fox Run. Still sits in a pretty strong position, just 2 strokes off the podium. Brian, any wisdom you can share on Maria Oliva and the type of player that she's going to be throughout the rest of this tournament?
Well, first off, we have to take a look at the bogey on 10. I mean, that's the easiest hole out there on the property, besides maybe hole 6. A 4 on that is just something that's not going to happen again for Maria. So that right there is going to be a par or birdie. There's strokes made up there. The double bogey at 18 happens, but the way she throws the distance driver suits that tee shot very well. So I can almost guarantee you that adjustment will get made as well. 15 is... it's whatever. It's very easy to bogey that one. So just looking at her round at Fox Run, I think easily she can go way under par. She is such a great thrower of the disc. Her flex shot is definitely her comfort zone, but she's getting much better with the hyzer flip, which will bode very well for her out here at Brewster Ridge. But I think overall she's got the package. The forehand is okay. It's kind of spotty. The short game needs to stay consistent with the putting and the approaches, but the thing is she's going to get off the tee better than almost anybody out here and give herself opportunities to take the birdies down. But again, she has a lot of room to make up on Kristen Tatar, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of put Maria almost in a similar class to Ellen Hahn as far as backhand game goes. Doesn't have quite the same forehand that those two players has, but she's in that same upcoming generation of FPO player that does have a lot of raw talent. She's also an incredibly hard worker. I mean, she grinds out these off seasons, still playing tournaments, stays very active, and again, just has that drive to compete. And I'm excited to see how the rest of her Worlds plays out. Now, another player that we need to talk about from Finland is going to be Henna Blomroos. Of course, she was our runner-up at Worlds last year to Kristen Tatar. She's currently 17th in the world on the UDIS World Rankings. early this year, we saw her finish in the top 5 at the Las Vegas Challenge and has consistently placed within the top 15 when she has played on tour. This includes some top 10 finishes at Champions Cup and the European Open, so some success at the majors. Again, she's one of those players that is very solid when it comes to reaching the circles in regulation and when it comes to birdie percentage due to the throwing talent, but just continues to have some putting woes that hold her back. She shot an even par to join Jennifer Allen in a tie for 15th place at round 1. And in round 2, she was able to shoot 1 under to join Maria Oliva in a tie for 7th place and put her on the chase card. What are we going to be seeing, you think, from Hannah Blomroos today out of Brewster?
Well, the putting is what's holding her back. I mean, she's throwing the disc so well. I think at Brewster, it's right up her alley. I hope with the conditions being the way they are today, I hope maybe the putter feels a little bit more comfortable in her hand. I saw her miss a couple of putts when the conditions were wet in round 1, but we'll just have to see. I mean, if she's given herself 15 to 18 looks at birdie from circle 2 and in, I mean, she's bound to make quite a few of them. I think for her, that circle 1 and circle 2 in regulation stats going to be very important because not having to make any stressful comebackers to save par or anything like that. That's where the big numbers can really add up out here at Brewster.
That is very true. Now, one other player that we do want to talk about a little bit is going to be Ohn Scoggins. Now, she entered the world's competition, currently ranked number 2 in the world and number 3 in our point standing. She has been a consistent force on the tour. She got her first win ever on the Disc Golf Pro Tour at the Mid-America Open not that long ago, a silver event. And then shortly after that, she'd go on and secure her first elite event at D-Glow just a couple of weeks ago. And outside of the wins, she has 8 additional podium finishes this year, Brian, and she has come first or second her last 4 events in a row. Of course, she is known for her putting, and she leads the field this season in C1X and C2 putting, and she is in the top 5 for birdie percentage. Unfortunately, though, Brian, the bad news is that we would clearly see her in discomfort and injured during the opening round on the feature card. It was very evident that she was struggling to hit her lines due to something going on with her right elbow or forearm. It was really hard to tell, but it was very evident that something was going wrong. And the trooper that she is, she actually still tried to continue playing yesterday, and she did complete the round, but at the end determined that it was time to DNF and focus on the long term. Brian, it's tough to see a competitor like that not be able to remain in the world's competition. I mean, Ohn is such a special player, and really all I can do is just wish her the best, but I figured I'd let you have the floor to maybe give a few words about Ohn.
Well, the whole field respects her so much. We saw Kristen Tatar give her a big hug yesterday and offer some words of encouragement. I mean, every single person in this division knows that if Ohn is going to drop out of a tournament, something is wrong. She is tough as nails, and she's kind of old school in the mindset of like, hey, I've never DNF'd before. I don't want to do this now. And I guarantee you, if she physically could, she would grind out all 5 rounds no matter what, just out of the pride of doing so. But I noticed just dead arm. At the end of the day, in round 1 even, her arm just was not firing. And I heard something that it started out in her finger, and then it shot up her arm, and it's gotten more complicated from there, so only wish her the best. I hope everything's okay.
Indeed. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that. Of course, Brian, we're going to go ahead and let you go, but of course we're going to hear out from you throughout the rest of the day as we are going to take one last break, but when we get back, it'll be the commentators taking over the FPO action for Day 3 of Worlds.